Welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time at Small Photobook Cult. I'm Gabriele Chiapparini. Push like if you like the episode and remember to subscribe to the channel to stay updated. Today's book is Strange Love, a book full of dualities that force the viewer's gaze into a whirlwind of images taken between Russia and the United States. Two states that seem very far apart to us, politically, socially, and culturally, but that are separated only by a few nautical miles. If you look at the images of this book, it's so hard to understand if the pictures are shot in the United States or Russia. And this is the point and the core of this project. So, welcome to this new episode of Small Photobook Cult. We are here with the photographer, Seamus Murphy. Hello, Seamus. I'm really happy to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
How are you? How is going there?
Yeah, it's nice. It's very hot. I mean, hot for London. But it's okay. It's cool.
Here is really hot for Italy, so you can imagine.
I can imagine. Actually, I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I'm sweating. I decided to don't use the fan for this episode, and
you're suffering for your art. I got a fan on above me. I'm afraid I have to have it on. It's too hot.
Yeah, that's the only way to be safe in some way.
Yeah.
So, Strange Love. Do you want to present like the project?
Sure. Well, I mean, you'll stop me at certain times, and you'll sort of ask the odd question. I mean, Strange Love. It was a strange journey. It started out a long time ago. 2005 actually is when I actually started the project, and it wasn't Strange Love then. It was a look at America, because I'd grown up in Ireland. And, America was sort of this incredible land of opportunity and a place where you might get a second chance at life. And Irish people, traditionally, historically, used to emigrate there a lot. England was next door, but England didn't offer the same kind of freedom that America did. So, everyone growing up in Ireland always had a very, very strong opinion of America. Most people didn't go to America, but they all had strong opinions about America. And like everywhere else on earth, we were, affected by American culture, music, television, film. But anyway, in the just before I started this project, I'd been shooting a lot of American wars, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and America was the world's policeman at the time. And I'd done that for a number of years, and I was wanting to go back to a type of photography that was more personal, something a bit more, with a bit more depth, not worrying too much about deadlines and headlines. And I'd lived in America in the 80s for a few years after college, and it's where I taught myself photography. And I always wanted to go back and spend time shooting America and interrogating it in some ways. And after spending all this time covering American wars, I thought it was a good time to do it. So anyway, in 2005, I was supposed to go to Gaza. I was supposed to go to Gaza with an American journalist who's based in London called Marie Colvin, the Sunday Times, to cover the withdrawal of the Israelis from Gaza, of all places. And I decided not to do it. I decided I wasn't going to take that assignment, and I was going to instead start this project in America. And I remember the first day going to Times Square, and it was really hot, really humid, and not knowing where to begin. What was I doing there? Really unsure of myself. Wasn't even sure if I was going to shoot in color or black and white. I was going to shoot this in film. I wasn't going to shoot digital, even though digital cameras were available and people were using them. I didn't really want to be carrying a laptop with me. I didn't want to be looking at images every evening. I wanted to shoot film and then, wait for a month before I saw the results, the old way. Again, that was probably a reaction to what I was shooting in news. So I was down in Times Square, looking at everything, wondering where to go. And the phone rang, and it was my colleague from the Sunday Times, actually in Gaza, saying, "Where the hell are you? You should be here." And I said, I'm in Times Square, and she laughed because she's a really hard-bitten sort of news journalist. Like, what are you doing in Times Square? And I really didn't know what I was doing in Times Square, and I thought, what the hell am I doing? As I say, I didn't even know at that point whether I was going to shoot it in color or black and white. Actually, on that trip, within a few days, I realized it had to be color. I started out shooting both, and then I stuck with color. And there's a picture, actually, it's what page is it? It's page 7 on that PDF, Gabrielle.
7.
7, yeah. It's Times Square. And it's the recruitment campaign for the American military. It's right in the middle of Times Square. I don't know if it's still there. It's like a booth. And they have this poster of Uncle Sam, the old, your country needs you. That one. Yeah. And I took that picture that very first day. And, it's hard to remember, hard to describe how it was in 2005. America was in the middle of the Iraq War. It was going very badly for them. And but they kept saying that, they were doing the right thing. And, it was a repeat of Vietnam. They were telling people that there was improvements happening and, things were getting better. And it was worth sending people there to fight and all that stuff. George Bush was in power. Anyway, so this was me looking at America. And I also had in mind the classic American book, On the Road, hugely influential book. People like Bob Dylan, inspired them to do what they did. And I had read that book when I was about 20, when I was in California, living there for a few years. And I loved it. And I came back to this book in my 40s and read it again. And it was actually a very different book the second time around. It was much more of a search for meaning, rather than, what the book is known for, what it's sold as. It's like, young people looking for kicks, sex, drugs, rock and roll, on the road. So I thought 2007 was going to be the 50th anniversary of the publication of On the Road. So I thought, well, that would be a good date to sort of have in the back of my mind, try and get a body of work so that I could possibly publish a book. I realize now how optimistic and naive I was, because by the time 2007 came around, my opinion of the project changed. I hadn't been thinking about Russia yet, but I definitely wanted to do a lot more work than I had done at that point. And I thought just a 50th anniversary of On the Road would be kind of a shallow thing to do. So I kept going. And then in 2008, I got a commission, a very long commission, from a magazine called Dispatches, who wanted me to go to the Russian Far East. They had themed publications, like each quarter they would take an idea. Like they did one on America, they did one on poverty, they did one on the environment, and this one was going to be on Russia. And the editor, Gary Knight, said, this book is going to be full of really heavy text, heavy stuff. We want something to not lighten it, but just alleviate perhaps the reader and give them something to ponder. So they wanted 50 pages of pictures from me from the Russian Far East. And so I went and I spent 6 weeks, mostly traveling by train. I went to Vladivostok on the Far East, and then worked my way back east west on the train. And I would get out every so often, wander around, spend the night in town, get back on the train, and just kept going like that. And anyway, at the end of this trip, or even during this trip, what struck me was often some of the scenes I was seeing and the way people were living and just the general state of things, it wasn't that different to what I was seeing in parts of America, especially the industrial areas of Pennsylvania, and people's lives, the daily worker, the person going out to make a living. Was their life that much different to America? I mean, really that much different? Of course, it was different in many ways. I'm not suggesting it was the same, but there are similarities or commonalities between the two places. And for the average working person living under the shadow of a huge power like America or Russia, it struck me that there were a lot of similarities. And this thought sort of, it really hit me, and I sort of took it away with me. And I thought then later that, perhaps I should go back to Russia. So I'd been to Russia before that, and go back and shoot with the idea in mind of finding places that, were slightly similar in terms of how people were employed, maybe politically. So I went to the Ural regions of Russia, the Urals, very industrial area. And that sort of was like a parallel with areas around Pittsburgh. Places where the past was very important to these people. A lot of industrial manufacture, a lot of weapons manufacture, loyal people, people that often would join the military, and then there'd be whole dynasties of families that would be in the military. A lot of veterans of past wars, and basically people that would sort of go for or be susceptible to the rhetoric of the likes of Trump and Putin. And then for example, this picture you're looking at now, this is Braddock. It's a river town, an old steel mill town.
This one, right?
In Pennsylvania. No, the one before that's Russia. The one before that is Pennsylvania.
Like this one or this one or this one?
No, that one.
With the table.
The table. That's the one. So this is Braddock in Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. It's a river town. The Deer Hunter, that film, was shot in towns just like this. A lot of East European people moved there, Irish, Italians, as I say, loyal people that would be quite patriotic. They'd see that, they'd come to this country and they felt maybe they owed America favor. They owed their lives to this place. So these would be a loyal people, working people, tough people, tough place to live. And then I found the equivalent in a place called Perm, Perm, in the Urals, and I spent time traveling around there. And life really wasn't so dissimilar. Level of education, not necessarily as good as it could be. Health insurance, that kind of stuff. One place is not necessarily better than the other. So I found that very interesting. And when I went back then to Russia, as I say, I was focused on this project. So sort of at that stage, Strangelove came into being, because I was now looking at America and Russia, and I was looking at one with the other in mind. Sometimes, now, of course, I wouldn't get up in the morning in Russia or America when I was working and think of this, so deliberately. I mean, it'd be difficult to be able to operate that way. But in the back of my mind, sort of running in the back of my mind all the time was this similarity of these two places. And I would try and find images that might capture that. I mean, for example, this image, this image is from, the one before that, the corn. This is Louisiana. This was, I was spending time in one place in Louisiana. It was a story. It was a story that I'd sort of found about this one high school that had a high school football team. And I actually went down to this place because I heard there were river baptisms, where people actually were still baptismed in the river. And I wanted to photograph that. And I did that. And then I met somebody from the town who was just showing me around. He told me about their local school and how he actually was really involved in trying to build up a new high school football team, because in America, a good sports team, especially football, will bring business to a town. It'll bring better students. It'll bring money. And this town called Lake Providence was actually, it was kind of bankrupt, and their football team, were not very good. And this guy remembered 20 years previously when he was on the football team, and it was possible, that business was booming when the team was doing well. So anyway, he told me about this interesting story about a white guy who they'd chosen to become the football coach in a school of all black people, and how this guy, who was black himself, told me that he found this guy and thought he was the best coach, but there was a lot of difficulty of the black people, still agreeing with this. Anyway, in the end, they agreed. He came on board. The team did really well. I think the town started doing well because of it. I'm sure they did. But anyway, I was in that town to shoot a story about this football team and this phenomenon of this new coach. And but while I was there, I was shooting other things. I got to know this very interesting farmer who had been the sheriff of this town in East Carroll, and I went out with him. He was working the land, and he was driving a combine harvester. And this was the stuff that gets spewed at the back of a combine harvester. So, in any day on these trips, on this project, I could encounter anything. Did I know this picture was going to end up in the book? No, I didn't. No, I didn't know quite what I was doing. You never know quite what you're doing until you've done it. And then it starts making sense if it's any good and if it ties in with other work. Just before we came to record this, we were talking about books and how the fact that, it's not always just the best pictures. It's the pictures that work together and that together, add an extra layer of meaning to a project. So it's really interesting how, at one stage I had an edit of about 130 pictures. I mean, these are two vast countries, America and Russia, and you expect there to be a big book with a lot of pictures. And I could have done a book on either of the places, either places. So I put them together. You think there's going to be a huge book, but I really went through the final edit, 130 pictures, and I wanted to knock it down a bit. And I kept going, and I kept asking myself the question, is this picture really strong enough? Does it really add something to this idea? If I take it out, what does it look like? And I took pictures out that I couldn't believe I left out because they were always favorites, always pictures that I thought were going to be crucial to the project. But actually, by taking them out, it strengthened the project, strengthened the story. Of course, the sequencing is very important. And sometimes you'll take a picture out and then find that you really want to put that picture back in again because of, sorry, I should turn that off.
Don't worry, it's okay.
Okay, so yeah, with the editing process, it's not all about just the best pictures. And, I was stunned by the pictures that I took out, the outtakes. But I got it down from 130 pictures to 88 in the end, with 89 including the cover. And, literally at the last moment, there were pictures that popped up that I'd seen before, but I hadn't really sort of seen them in the light, perhaps, of the final edit. There's two images, actually. I'll tell you what they are, Gabriella. There is the picture of the woman with the rabbit.
Yeah, I see it before. Yeah, it's around
there's also
here.
That one. So I'd seen that before. I shot the picture. Obviously, I knew it, and I don't know. I was looking for something else, and I was looking at the pictures on my screen. I was like, oh, hang on, let's look at this again. And I got a raw file, and I cleaned it up and looked at it properly, and it was Strange Love. It was definitely had to be part of Strange Love. The other picture was the orange elephant, towards the end.
Yeah,
number 8. I mean, that was one I passed a few times. Just couldn't quite. But then I don't know what happened. Just seemed to make a lot of sense. And then of course you got to find a place for it. Sometimes you leave pictures out because you literally can't find a place for it. It doesn't fit the mood. You don't want to undo the sequences that go before or after it. It has to be in one place, perhaps, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I find that process really fascinating. What's funny is you're out there shooting and you're sort of doing your best and you're trying to get the best image, and of course that's what you should be doing. But sometimes it's almost like when you relax a bit. That picture I've just taken, the picture of the elephant. I didn't put any value on it when I took it. I saw it, and I was like, yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting the way she's dwarfed by this elephant, the color of the elephant. She represents like a certain sort of version of Russia, which is like very sort of serious and slightly grim. And yet you got this sort of surreal elephant in the background. So anyway, it found a place. I mean, at the last minute, I literally, 2 or 3 days before I was submitting all the images to the repro house for eventual, printing, that and the rabbit woman just snuck in. So that's an interesting part of the process. It just goes to show you should never throw anything away. I mean, it's easy enough now with digital. To keep everything, but I started out this project shooting film. Pretty much all the American stuff is shot on film, and all the Russian stuff is shot on digital. But it's so important to keep everything because you have no idea, what will be useful, what will appeal to you, what will suddenly change its impact. Your eye changes, your needs change. I look at edits I've done, from work I did in the past. Maybe I was on a magazine assignment or I was doing a story for somebody and I picked out 10, 20 pictures, scan them if they were film. And then I look back now on that kind of work, and I see all kinds of other pictures that I would have chosen. So it's interesting how, your viewpoint changes and how you value things. Yeah.
But also, I found this picture quite meaningful inside the book, because the topic you're speaking about, I think it's really clear and really strong. Like that, in the end, like you don't see and you don't find so many difference in the people, like in the population mainly.
Yes.
And I think it's curious because right now that we are inside so many wars, probably if you go around and you ask people if they want the war, probably they say no. And probably you will find people quite similar to us in Russia, in Ukraine, and everywhere, almost everywhere. And I think like, to me, this picture, it's a bit, when you say the elephant in the room.
Exactly.
It's this huge thing that is so huge that you almost don't notice it, because it's like it's big. And I think it's really curious, the fact that you take these two countries that are depicted like so different from history, from books, from everything. But in the end, if you're gonna there and you start watching it, of course there are differences, but in some way, like it's people, like it's people that probably don't want a war, that want to have a good life.
Yes, I mean, exactly. It's extraordinary, isn't it? How these are the ultimate enemies. East and West. Russia and America. East and West. It's like capitalism, communism, the values. They're so different. Like so different that literally millions of people died defending one or the other. Fighting for one or the other. Globally, in Africa, in Asia, Cold War, the spying, all that stuff. And it was all because apparently we were so different. We were so different to each other. What we valued was so different to each other. But in the end, you're right. I mean, in the end, the vast majority of people, all they want to do is live a life. They want to look after their families. They want to have a good time. They want to live with some dignity. It's amazing that we can't sort of manage to secure that. I'm not saying that Ukraine shouldn't be defended. I'm not taking a political view of what action should be taken. I'm being a bit disingenuous by sort of throwing it out there. It's kind of a plea for humanism. It's to say, this is crazy, this is stupid. If in this set of pictures you're looking through the book and you kind of get lost and you don't know where you are, and yet you're looking at two arch enemies that have spent all the resources of the world, all the resources of money and manpower, lives, to defend or to fight for it. And yet you can't differentiate between one place and another in a set of pictures. So what it means, of course, is that someone is out there manipulating the message and telling us all this stuff about who the enemy is, and filling us with the ideas of why we should hate them. Unfortunately, it's the history of the world, though, isn't it? I mean, it's not. I don't see it changing, but it's good every so often to remind yourself that it is such bullshit.
Yeah,
that's the most we can do, really.
Yeah, I agree. And what about the cover?
Yeah, the cover is curious, isn't it? The cover is it's the same idea of where are you? Where do you think you are? Looking at it, you'd obviously think Russia. I think you think Russia.
Yeah, it's a red star.
Red star, yeah, and all that. But actually, it's Texas. It's the Lone Star of Texas. I was on an assignment for Newsweek magazine, and I was to photograph. It was an interesting thing. It was children of veterans who died in Afghanistan and Iraq. It was their day in this military base in Texas, and so the kids would be brought along, and there was a ceremony for them. They were given various things, and then each one of them would light a candle and then utter their mother or father's name. And it was very moving, actually, because most of the children, when they uttered the name, they cried. It was not was not something they were used to doing, and it was kind of a ritual. Anyway, before going in there, I had about an hour to kill because I got there early, and I was driving around this neighborhood in Texas, and I came across this image. If you go, Gabriella, if you go to almost the end of the book, the second last image, number 91, it's the reveal of where that there it is. That's where the picture was taken, and it's a suburban garage, 2 cars garage, and this is somebody's put that up on the wall. That's where it comes from. So I like the idea of the uncertainty of where you were. Obviously, as well, you've got the rusting star, which is sort of fading empires, the Rust Belt. It also has almost like a kind of a supersonic kind of jet age feel to it. That it's almost like that. It's ascending into the heavens. It could be like something from the old Thunderbirds cartoon series. I don't know if you know that. Sort of cheaply made animation where a model of a spacecraft would be, ascending the Earth. It's got a lot of connotations for me, but it's definitely fading empire as well.
Yeah, completely. Like it seems like it's melting.
Yes, yeah, it's rusting and it's dripping. It's literally dripping.
Yeah, but it's also beautiful because it seems like this idea is melting. Like in your book, this idea of the opposites.
Yeah, exactly, and also it is sort of where we're told this, and I'm pretty sure it's true that we are coming towards the end of these empires of America and Russia, and there are other empires now coming up like China, and India and other places. So the funny thing about America too is that when I went to start shooting America, I was kind of interested in America because although America is known as the new world, and it's like it's sort of when I grew up it was always everything's new and everything's modern. Actually, now America just feels very old to me. It's very much like the old world. Their technology is often not that great. Anyone that's been to places in America and try to use mobile phones is not that great. You go to Afghanistan, you get a better signal on your phone. So it's funny how they've been sort of left behind. They're a behemoth. They're gigantic. It's too big, and they're a kind of they are like a dying elephant in some ways. And Russia's the same. And so in a way, it's fitting that the two of them are sort of going to die together. Like two big animals sort of slaying each other till the end. And meanwhile, other things are happening. So I think that was something else that interested me about America. That America design is very classical. It's very things don't change that much. Like if you look at toasters or you look at implements, they don't change that much. They don't have very innovative design. They've got very traditional, very solid design. They don't have, phone boxes aren't really that, you don't really have phone boxes anymore, pay phones. But I remember the American pay phones, they were the same for like decades. Something very solid about them. Look at the New York Times magazine. I don't think that they've changed the design for 20 years. There's an old classical, old world feel to America, which is a funny thing to say because everyone thinks, America's the new world. It's the future. And I just felt that it wasn't actually. That its time had come, and so that was another reason why when I started shooting America, I was thinking of people like Hopper, the painter. Actually, there's a photograph that's very kind of like Hopper. It's a police car lurking in the shadows.
Where?
Very, very early on. It's where is it? Number 29. That one. It could be a Hopper painting of Nighthawks. I was actually on a night train, leaving Los Angeles Union Station to go to Albuquerque in New Mexico. We were very, very slowly leaving Los Angeles, and this car was parked there. They're probably having coffee or something, or maybe they're staking something out. I don't know. But it just struck me, and I shot that through the window of a very slow-moving train, shooting film. Which anyone that knows anything about shooting film in low light, it's not the best for shooting low light. But anyway, it was 1600 ASA Fuji color negative, very good film. And when I was doing this would have been when I was concentrating solely on America. I was doing crazy traveling. I even met a hobo. There was a hobo convention of all things in, I think it was Ohio or Iowa, and I met this hobo that was on his way to this hobo convention, and I actually did the rails with him for one night. We were jumping the rails. I didn't get any pictures that were worth putting in the book. I don't think they didn't really fit this. But it was a great experience. Him and his dog. His dog was called Slouch. When I met him, I had to buy the dog a burger from McDonald's. And crazy times. Crazy times.
I want to ask, probably it's not, but is this one, I don't know the name in English, Diomede. Like putting this, because this one is the last image of the book.
Yeah.
And then the book finish.
Yeah.
So I thought that this one could be the view from Russia, like to Russia from America, or vice versa.
Oh, you're actually looking towards Japan, actually, and you're looking east, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just that little figure, the little figure in the water. That's it, isn't it? I mean, that's us. We are in this sort of sea of this enormous sea, and if we keep killing other people, we're going to end up on our own. What's the point?
Yeah, because also I think like myself, and probably a lot of people, we tend to forget that Russia and United States are really close.
Yes,
they are super close. The fact is that we used to watch that map that put one on the right and one on the left of the map, but it's not true, because if you like bind the map, they have a border that is this island that the name is Diomede in Italian.
I see. It's the Bering Strait, isn't it? That's the stretch of water.
Is that one?
Yeah.
That they are touching each other.
Yeah.
But it's also, this one is really a political choice to put the map in that way with these two.
Yes.
Yes. So far, there is the Europe in the middle, Africa, and a lot of other stuff. But in reality, they are just touching each other.
That wonderful New Yorker cartoon? I think is it Steinberg, where he's sort of giving the viewpoint of a typical New Yorker, and so Manhattan is like this vast amount of space, and then the next thing you see is Europe, and it's tiny, it's in the distance, and then China. It doesn't matter, but between here and the 14th Street, that's what's important, and so it is that myopic vision of the world, and I think Americans were always blamed for, huge percentage of Americans don't even own passports, that they don't, and this is a terrible generalization, but a lot of people probably can't afford to travel these days, but it is that idea of this insularity, which of course Donald Trump is now trying to sort of bring back, isolationism.
Yeah, and probably you speak about it a bit before, and but I want to know something more about the title. How came up this idea of Strange Love?
Yeah, Strange Love it came about really because of this sort of bromance between Trump and Putin, or at least Trump's obsession, fascination, crush almost on Putin, and also the need that America has for Russia and the need that Russia has for America. It's a strange love. It's a sort of like a soap opera. 1 minute they're in love, next minute they're fighting. But in the end they make up because they're codependents. They need each other. So it's a strange love. And of course there's the film Dr. Strangelove.
I love it.
Yeah, love it too. And of course the ultimate fuck up from these two guys hating each other and telling everyone that they hate each other and we should hate the other one is a nuclear disaster. So I like the echo of that of Strangelove, Dr. Strangelove, without being too literal. I separated the Strangelove into two words rather than having it as one word. I think it fits the project.
And you decide, like, what camera and what lens do you use for this project?
Yeah, I mostly it was all Canon. Started out, I mean, the Canon film camera, EOS 1N, I think it was. That was when I was shooting. This was shot in, the picture we're looking at right now was shot in color negative. Again, 1600 ASA Fuji. That will be a 50mm lens, I think. I use 50 a lot, 50 and 35, but 50 a lot. And, this is actually on the Staten Island ferry heading back towards Manhattan. And we're actually coming in to where the Twin Towers would have been. And what's happening there in terms of technically and lighting, the light is a light. We're on the deck of the boat. And this is just, I don't know who this man is. It's some passenger. And it's a light above us that's sort of illuminating the boat. So I exposed the film for the background to make sure that I got the lights in. Because if I'd exposed for the hat and the coat, they would have been too dark. So I knew that this would be a little bit overblown, a little bit overexposed. I didn't really mind that. It just has a very, very film noir feel to it for me. Very America to me.
Yeah, with the hat.
Yeah, Philip Marlowe. But it's also got that spy thing, which again plays into the Russia idea.
Yeah.
Often with film noirs, there were these sort of evil people, the Maltese folk, and these kind of films. There were these sort of evil foreigners doing things, trying to bring down the American way. Anyway, it's got lots of film noir atmosphere to it.
And how was the process to combine digital and film? Like, do you need a lot of post production?
No, not too much. I mean, I've got a great person that helps me with really preparing the work for publication. But no, it was okay. I mean, sometimes some of the film images are a little bit grainy, but it's okay. They work. They work. In fact, it's often very hard to tell the difference. Usually, you can tell because of the sharpness of the digital image.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a sharpness to it that's kind of almost unnatural. This, for example, is a digital image.
This one,
it's extraordinarily sharp. Yeah, the focus being on the wall. By the way, if you go back to that one, the last one, that's actually a wall. That's a painting on a wall. That lake. You can see the curb.
There is a bit like it's a bit like a fiction, and also
yes,
like it starts to be combined with the idea of the book that we.
Well, exactly. You doubt you. I think one of the things I'm trying to do is to get you to doubt what you're looking at, or at least to question it.
Mm-hmm.
That what you see. Are you sure you're seeing what you think you're seeing, or are you seeing what you think you're seeing and not really what's there? I mean, all these things are very interesting, and I mean, it's probably the case for a lot of photography. Having a second look. You look at a picture or a painting, and you have one take on it, and then someone tells you something about that painting. Oh my God, it changes your perspective of what you're looking at.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I'm sure why you're doing this podcast, because having some context really, really enriches what you're looking at.
Yeah, and I think also after listening you speaking about this project, I think probably a lot of people are going to see different stuff inside each picture, and I think it's beautiful. Like it's still
and
open.
in fact their viewpoint will be. I would be fascinated to hear their viewpoint, because they're going to be seeing things that perhaps I haven't seen or hadn't thought of. It really is that's why I very deliberately didn't have captions beyond place. That was it, just the place. Because I wanted to let the viewer, the reader, know where the pictures were, but I didn't want that caption to be underneath the picture, because I didn't want them to know immediately. So I did this index at the back, so you could very quickly work out where that picture was of. Very quickly you can say, oh, that's Russia, that's America, okay.
Yeah, but it's outside the book.
Yes, you got to look at it later.
Yeah.
I was thinking of ways of doing it, like maybe putting the caption, I don't know, upside down. It wouldn't have worked. But I didn't want to also editorialize by giving some explanation, some caption. I don't want to tell people what to be thinking. I'm already doing enough by taking the picture, choosing the picture, placing it in the book, placing it in a particular place in the book. What size is it? I mean, that's something that's interesting too about the design of the book. We played with the idea of it being a landscape book or a portrait book. Now, the big difference is I really wanted the pictures to be big and to have the dynamism of going over 2 pages. I did not, however, want the gutter in the middle to ruin the picture. So I was taking a bit of a risk because depending on how tight the book is bound, it can be tolerable and fine and okay, or it can be a disaster. If the book is too tight, you end up with the book, the actual image, like an image like any of these images, these double page images. If the book's too tight, it doesn't look like one single image. It has this big sort of crease in the middle. But if the book opens up well, which this book thankfully does, then you have the spread of the spread of the 2 pages and having that picture over 2 pages. I was insistent also on having that white line around it like a frame. I didn't want it to go full bleed.
Why?
I wanted that idea. Well, I wanted the idea of it being an image. I didn't want it to be like a poster, and I wanted it to be almost like a print. Obviously, it's not a print, and there's a split in the middle. So, but it's a book. So you accept the fact that it's a book. It's not a print. But I wanted that dynamism. I wanted that spread. I wanted that sort of opening the page. And so, but for example, here, if I'd had that over 2 pages with the boy, his eyes, his nose would have been cut right in the middle. And even if the book opens up really, really well,
it's a risk.
It would still be in the way. So that's why pictures are either vertical pictures. Obviously, they get a whole page themselves, or if like this picture wouldn't have worked so well if it was in the middle. I think it would have cut her in the middle. So we did it that way. Same with this.
Yeah, but there is some kind of tension in the sequencing process, but also in the editing, like in the design, like having all these pictures so big, like it's quite strong. Start to be a bit overwhelming after a while.
I hope not.
No, in a good way. Like I mean, it's really, I don't know. It's really take you inside the work.
I think what we wanted to do is it's an accumulation. You really should start at the beginning. I tend to pick up books and flick through them from the back, but actually, if you start from the beginning, it is like a journey. It's like a journey you're going on. And I also very deliberately made the sequencing America, Russia, America, Russia, America, Russia. So here's America. Next one is Russia. Next one's Russia. Next one's America. Next one's Russia. So that's not going to change. So every time you go to the next one, it'll be the other country. And that meant obviously that when we were sequencing it, that you found the right pictures to go with. Like there could have been great pictures that would have been Russia and Russia together, or America and America together. There could have been wonderful twins that would have really worked. But I didn't want that. I wanted to go Russia, America, Russia, America. So in a way, you've got no excuse for getting lost. If you knew the picture before was America, then of course the next one was Russia. But I think what tends to happen is that you start losing quite where you are, because this one's Texaco. Maybe you could imagine that's America because it's Texaco. But often if there isn't Cyrillic lettering, this could be Pennsylvania. This is going to be America, obviously.
Yeah,
this is America.
Yeah, I think it's not so obvious. Like, of course, there is the flag, but I thought, is it America, or is it like it's someone in Russia with a passion from United States? Because it could be like it's not so weird.
This could be America. This could be.
Yeah. No, I think you get lost pretty soon.
Yeah.
And of course you have some in some pictures you have some
Yes, exactly.
Mainly it's that one. Mainly it's the text or this kind of cars that is something that is really specific. But in a lot of pictures, you really don't know.
Like this one could be Russia. This one could be Russia.
Yeah, it's probably America because you just said to me that it's American, Russian, America. But if not, I thought this one was Russian. Then maybe if you zoom in a bit, you can see that maybe the brands are.
Yeah, they're in English. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the only way to.
And then this one, you got Cyrillic lettering, you got the Lada.
Yeah.
So that this one, does she look Russian? Well, this is actually America, but she's very possibly Serbian or Hungarian.
Yeah.
These are the East European people that migrated to Braddock, or the Braddock area, the Pittsburgh area. So, but she's American. So, and this is Russia, but this could be one of the bridges in Pittsburgh. This is Pittsburgh, but again, could be Russia. Out of focus in the background, you can see USS. It's written on but it's out of focus. It's written on that little,
No, it's impossible to read.
Yeah. So that's the steel mill. It's still actually operating. And this one again, you got the lettering on the on the barbecue, but the rest of it could be in Pennsylvania. This is an example of using the 50 actually. A 50 millimeter lens. I was most of the time, it was around my neck. And the thing about the 50 is it's quite a light lens, the one I was using, light and weight. So the camera was always around my neck. And, I was checking into this hotel and I saw this. And it was like, split second, she's bending down to pick something up. And it was just all there, wasn't it? Like the palm tree. There's the palm tree, the neon palm tree, the sort of the fantasy. And then you got the reality of it, which is flower and this woman with her very bandy leg, very skinny legs, the wilting Russian flag.
Yeah,
but it's a split second. She picked the thing up and she was gone. So that's why I love about the 50. It's not. It's also close enough. I mean, I was at the desk. If I was on a 35 mm, it'd be just too far away.
Mm-hmm.
The 50 is like it's nice and intimate. It's great. It's a great all round lens.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it too. I also like the some I don't know longer lens like. The
85 is very nice.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful because you can transform a bit more the reality, but at the same time, it's a pro and cons.
Yes.
Yeah, like everything in photography. But the beautiful part, I think, that each time it's a choice, and it's something that I really love about photography. It's something when I teach, is something that I try to teach. That you can do what you want, but you have to choose it. You
have to choose it. But for example, if I'd had an 85 around my neck and this happened, I wouldn't have got the palm tree.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's anyway. It's maybe I would have taken a step back.
Yeah, of course. You
quickly enough, but then I might have missed the moment. I mean, and listen, we always because life is going on when we don't have a camera. But it's that thing. I think it's weird, isn't it? I mean, you can. I remember being in situations where. I was out shooting and I was feeling good and I ran out of film or something. I had to go back to a hotel to pick up more film. And I was desperate to get back to the hotel to pick up the film, to put in the camera before I saw anything that I thought was a picture that I would have missed.
Mm-hmm.
But if I hadn't had the camera with me, I would have missed it anyway. I mean, it's funny. When you're in that sort of zone, it's pretty obsessive.
Yeah, it could be. It's true. But yeah, it's also I don't know. I still have to understand if it's like that moment, the moment when you are more able to find something interesting or not, because I'm scared that if I start to be too much obsessive, it doesn't work because I start to I want it so much that maybe I see the wrong things,
Yes.
But the fact is that a lot of time it happens that you see something beautiful and you don't have your camera with you. So
yeah, that's right.
Which one is the right balance?
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. But I think it's when you do have the camera with you and you do see something that's wonderful.
Yeah,
just to be able to sort of capture it. It is the most marvelous thing. But the thing is that if you miss it, then you can't feel too bad about it because
no, yeah, of course,
not the point. Yeah, but at the same time, we are humans, and if you'd got that picture. You would have felt so much better, and it is a bit like sort of a sport or something. It's kind of I don't want to relate photography to sport, but there is something very physical about.
No, 100%. It
oh my
is.
God! I mean, if if you don't crouch down, when you should, and if you don't, get up on a height, just because, to get that different vantage point, it makes the picture. So it's extremely physical activity.
No, it is. And this is another point that I think it's really interesting. Like, for example, teaching to the students, at least, I don't know, for the first months, first years, to don't use a zoom. Because in this way, it's like, it's too comfy, it's too much easy. Like, you just, if something is far, you just have to zoom in or to zoom out. Yeah. But the fact is that it's completely changed the meaning of the pictures. So you have to decide if you want a 35 or a 50 or a 180. And then you have to move your body, like going down, going up, get closer. And
it's too much choice, isn't it? It's too much choice with a zoom.
It's a lot. It's too much, and it's too easy because you don't have to move your body. But the fact is that moving your body, you really change the perspective. And maybe you also start to see something that you didn't see before.
Yes. And usually you're not close enough, right? I mean, that's usually the case. But then when you take a picture with a 50 or a 35, and maybe you think it would have been better with a 100.
Yeah,
that could be the best picture, and you didn't realize it. But as long as you take the picture, I did that recently with something in Oxford. I was walking with some friends of mine, and there was a river, and there was this couple, and they'd been swimming, and they were getting dressed, and they were both putting themselves into they were both wearing shorts, a man and a woman, and exactly the same moment they were putting their feet in the, and the man, you can see his bare ass. I mean, it's in the distance, and I would think, oh, that would be a great picture from a much, like a 135 or something. But I had a 35 and I snapped it, and it's perfect as a 35 because you don't want to be too intrusive, obviously.
Yeah,
you don't want to show who these people are. It was a funny moment and a lovely moment. I think you're absolutely right. If you can stick with one lens, or two cameras with two lenses, I mean, that's another way of doing it. I tend to walk around if I can.
Yeah. But I think that the important part is to choose something.
Yes.
To choose.
Yes.
What's your point of view? What the.
And I would say to any student or any person that's dithering, I would say 50.
50.
I would say 50. Or at the very, if you want to be a little bit perhaps a little bit less confined, a 35.
Yeah. I used to I had a 40. I use it a lot because I bought a Leica M6 a lot of years ago when it was quite cheap. And I didn't have the money for the Leica lens. So I bought a Voigtlander lens, and it's a 40, and I think it's amazing. Like the 40 is amazing because it's a middle way between 50 and 35. It's not a 35, it's not a 50, it's the 40.
It's funny, I completely agree with you philosophically. And I bought a 40 mil, it was a pancake lens for a Canon. And I could never use it. I mean, it should be everything I would want, everything I want, like a little bit wider than the 50, a little bit closer than the 35. It just like that little difference made all the difference. I don't know. I think maybe I was thinking too much about it, but I mean, the 40 should be the absolute answer to everything. But for me, it didn't work. But that's great that it did for you.
But it was really beautiful because in the Leica you don't have the sign inside the viewfinder for the 40. You have the one for the 50 and for the 35. So the really interesting part was that I was shooting with some reference inside the viewfinder that were not true at all. So it was really surprising in the end when I saw the pictures, because it was all the time slightly or also more than slightly different from what I had in my mind.
Right.
And sometimes it's really beautiful that the photography can surprise you with these things that you didn't plan it at all. It also can be problematic, but... So if it's okay for you, we'll start with the standard questions.
Sure.
So first of all, a song for this book?
It's very hard. It's very hard. I because when it was America, I had a slide presentation of this work, the American work, in America at this wonderful festival, which no longer exists. It was in Virginia. God, I can't remember what it was called. But it was a really lovely thing. And I had this music by Tom Waits. Oh, Christ, what's it called? I'll look it up. But it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect for the American work. I don't think it would work so well for America and Russia. Um, it might. It might. It's got that sort of beatnik feel to it. And it was also the actual song was about this guy who goes to the cinema and he's waiting for the credits to roll, and he keeps falling asleep, and the film in the old days films used to sort of go end to end and they'd keep projecting, come to the end and they'd start again. But it was a great song and it worked really well for the work. But Tom Waits is, because a lot of this work is done on the road. It's kind of gritty work in terms of the places I go to are quite industrial, quite gritty. So I think Tom Waits, generally speaking, would be a good fit.
Yeah, I agree. Can work perfectly.
But then I could also see something wonderful, like in Strange Love, the film. You got that Tchaikovsky music that works so perfectly. I think nobody had ever done that before. Use classical music with science fiction.
Yeah,
perfect combination. It was so wrong, it was so right. And so maybe in a way, the dignity of the people in the pictures, the dignity of their labor, there could be something with something orchestral, something very classical, or it could be something, I put together, I've been shooting, I had been shooting moving pictures to a lot of this work as well. When I felt that I'd got enough of the work in the can, so to speak, I started then shooting some moving pictures. And I recorded some music from this Russian industrial sort of electronic group who were amazing. But I wanted to film them, recording their music in this studio in this industrial zone in the Urals. But they wouldn't allow any lights on. I mean, any lights whatsoever. Oh, the only lights were the lights from their amplifiers. It was absolutely pitch dark. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I filmed it. But all I really got was the music and the sound, and I thought at the time I was quite angry. I was like, "This is such a waste," and they were being so pure, But actually, in the end, I listened to the music, and it was perfect for the mood. So perhaps that music would work.
What is the name?
I have to look it up.
Yeah,
I have to look it up.
Yeah, we can wrote in the.
I have the music. I could send you the music. I could say it's a kind of a very rough audio recording I made of it. And in fact, you know what? My son put together a really lovely little clip, like just under a minute, of this for Instagram. We put it up on Instagram to show this book, and he's used some of that at the very beginning. I can send you that clip.
Yeah, it can be a pleasure. And the second question is: do you learn something doing this project that can help other photographers to do a better job?
God, I mean, this project has gone on so long that I was learning all the time. I mean, you're always learning something with photography. Always. You never feel like, okay, that's it. I can stop now. You're always learning something. I think one thing I learned from this project is that you should really know that it's great to start out with an idea, and it's great to sort of stick with an idea and be very dedicated to it, and try and follow that idea. But you should also be aware that idea is going to change. No matter what you do, it's going to change. It's going to change the more you work on it. It's going to change the more you look at the work you've done. Perhaps there are things that you can't do that you wanted to do. That'll change the project. So I think being open to the change, it's not really changed so much. It evolves. It evolves because it's not like it's set in stone. So I think that's something that I learned a lot from this project. That I set out with one idea. I started then moving in another direction, and then right up to the very end where I had this fixed idea, like there had to be these pictures had to be in. There's no way, this book could be published without this picture in it. And at the last minute, the elephant pops in and I have to get rid of something else. Pictures that I was absolutely willing to die for, to die defending. So things change, and I think you should be open to that change.
Yeah. And can you suggest us a book to have in one of the future episodes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a book I came across at London Photo a couple of years ago, and it's by Overlaps, the publishers, and it's by a photographer called Chris Chris Dorley Brown. Chris Dorley Brown is a great landscape photographer. I'm sure he's many other things, but his landscapes are really, really stunning. He seems to specialize in the East End of London, where I think he grew up. And this book is called The Longest Way Round. And it's a lovely, lovely book of his father was in the British Army during the Second World War. And it's a combination of Chris's pictures and pictures by and of his father during the war. And then Chris goes back to places his father was in during the war. It's just an amazing book. It's sort of very personal, and it's beautiful. So I'm just looking through it now. It's stunning. It's breathtaking.
Yeah, it is. I love it. I love it too.
It really is. I mean, I'm just looking at a picture of where is this? It's somewhere in Germany. I think he uses large format camera for a lot of it. You know, I haven't looked at this book for so long, and I know there's so many other things about this book that I'm not mentioning that are incredible about it. Do you know about this book? Do you know the? Because I know there were special things about it. Like, I think he's got things like he's got a photograph of the Kodak wallet.
Yeah.
That the photographs were processed in, which reminds me a little bit of Stephen Shore's work, where you see the packets of Kodak published, being printed.
Like, did the father use that for like writing letters, maybe, or not?
Very possibly.
Yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, it's the first book that I bought from Overlaps from Tiffany.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it justice. I mean, really, I just think, really seek it out, have a look at it. The Longest Way Round by Chris Dorley Brown. So much has gone into it. I mean, so much of his life is, and as a tribute to his father, his parents. Gorgeous.
No, yeah, it's gorgeous. A beautiful book, a beautiful project.
Great. If you had Chris on, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I met him once briefly. Lovely guy. So yeah, it'd be great.
I will ask Tiffany. We have I know her because she published our book too, so I know her pretty well. I will send a message right now with your voice suggesting this book. I think she can be happy.
Great.
Hello, Tiffany, if you're listening. Okay, thanks so much.
Good job, Tiffany.
Good job, Tiffany.
Okay, lovely. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much to you and also to everybody that listened this episode. And I don't know. I hope to meet you soon somewhere, or to do another episode with the next book.
The next book. No, I'm sure we'll meet again. We'll meet.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks. It was a real pleasure.
Bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye to you. Ciao, ciao. See you next time.
Bye-bye.